So it wasn't that difficult to guess what was in the box, and yes, everyone was correct. It was the prop, and more on that shortly. And back to the parachute straps, we received the ones we'd ordered, but then after trying to see how they were going to fit where we were going to join the two at the top of the A-pillar, we've decided to go with just a continuous strap that goes all the way from the forward bulkhead all the way to the engine compartment. And so we've ordered those straps, and they'll be arriving after Oshkosh, and then we can get the fuselage finished putting it together. And along the lines of redoing things, when we had welded together the top bracket for the main or for the nose gear retraction, we made a slight mistake in some of the angles on there, and the over center wasn't working, so I had to get Britt to redo that. So the bottom piece there is the existing one, and the top one is a new one that you just tack together. Now you can see the over center mechanism is locking out the way it's supposed to, and I created a jig this time out of some MDF, and that basically solved the problem. So that one just needs to be welded up now after it's been tacked. And continuing the theme of having to tweak different things, so you saw I had the belt drive running the other day, but it turns out that we had a slight misalignment there, and the belts were riding kind of a little bit against the edge there, so I had to shim them out. You can see some washers in there, but I basically got it all shimmed out now, and then the belts are riding in the middle where they're supposed to now. And like everything on this project, nothing's ever easy, so the prop actually came configured so by default it sets to coarse pitch, meaning the blades are turned on an angle, which provides a lot of resistance, you know, when you're trying to start the engine. So we couldn't just put the prop on and go ahead and start it. We had to actually adjust the blades first, and we didn't have the governor set up yet, so we couldn't do it using that. So what we decided to do was fill all that cavity there that runs the oil through to the prop with oil, and then we put this pipe on here, and then a gauge, and then a pressure valve on there, and we hooked up air to it, and we managed to crank it to about 70 psi, and that got the blades to turn, and then once they were turned we were able to be ready to start the engine without putting too much load on it. So for those of you who aren't familiar with how the constant speed prop works, basically you've got this an oil feed coming from the engine, and that goes into this adapter plate here, and then that gets run around in the governor, which bolts to that, and then a different pressure comes on the outline there, and that runs over to the prop where I just showed you, where we currently have that gauge on there. And by having the governor there, which that's what the governor is sitting there, by that, having that thing adjust how much oil pressure is sent to the prop, it can alter the pitch of the prop, but really what its goal is to set the RPM of the engine. So when you have the prop set to a flat pitch, the engine will go to a high RPM, and when you have it at a coarse pitch, the engine runs at a lower RPM. And it's basically like, you know, having gears in a car. So you know, when you're running, when you're taking off and you're landing, you put it in sort of first gear or a flat pitch or high RPM, and when you're up cruising along, you put it in a coarse pitch, or you basically set it for a lower RPM, and it's sort of, you know, cruising along in sort of a geared setting like that. And this governor is electrically operated, so there's a control panel here that you see that goes with it, and this mounts into the instrument panel. And so when you want to run high RPM, you press the up button there, and you want to run at a lower RPM on the engine, you press the down button, and then there's a button there you can press which automatically just takes it all the way to the highest RPM setting for takeoff and landing. And what I'm hoping to do here, and I've actually pulled this apart, is run some wires in there and connect up to those switches, and then be able to put a switch on each of the throttle controls, so you won't have to take your hand off the throttle, but you will be able to adjust the RPM on the engine, you know, with that one hand that's on the throttle. And so here you can see the throttle controls there. You've got that flat space there, and that's on the left hand side one, and the same obviously on the right hand side one. And I can basically install a hat switch there, so when you push the hat switch up, the engine will go to a high RPM, and down will go to low RPM, and then push it forward and it'll go all the way to the high RPM setting. So that should work out nice, and you know, not having, as I said, not having to take your hand off the throttle to adjust the prop, I think will have some good advantages. And lastly, here's a quick run of the engine with the prop on, and unfortunately we still can't run it for very long or even throttle it up right now because the engine still isn't tuned, but this will give you some idea of kind of what it looks like. Anyway, enjoy. So after months of working on the engine and the belt drive and getting everything together, it's pretty rewarding to see that Anyway, I'm not sure if there'll be an update on Tuesday or Saturday because, as you know, I'm at Oshkosh. But anyway, thanks again for watching.